Hello guys, let's start with our module 5, data definition language. Let's start with the first video of the module, create database and table. By looking at the chapter name, I would say, you might have got an idea that we are going to study about database or the table and how we are going to create it, right? Not taking a lot of time, let's just begin with the video. In the beginning, I said data definition language as the name of the module, correct? So first let's understand what is that. What is data definition language? Okay, or you can name it as DDL. Okay, so what is the purpose of DDL? Okay, if I write a definition, it could be like it is used to define and manage structure of data. It is used to define and manage structure of data. So data definition language, also called as DDL, which is basically a short form. So from the title, you can just figure out like there is a data and there would be a definition for the data, and to write that definition we have a particular language. Language means query. That is what it is written here in the purpose. It is used to define and manage structure of data. Okay, we'll just use this kind of table here and type out some important things like it deals with, first thing, creating databases. Okay, creating tables, modifying structure, deleting structure. Okay, so these are the things which this particular language deals with: creating a database, creating a table, modifying the structure, and deleting the structure. Okay, we will learn about this in more depth as we go forward, but this is a kind of a overview of data definition language. Like if someone asks you what is data definition language, you can directly say that it is a language used in SQL queries to create database, tables, and modify the structure and the legal structure. This is what a data definition language is. Okay, moving forward, let's try to understand common DDL commands. Okay, so what are the common DDL commands? So let's start by first one is what? Create. Second, alter or alter. Third, drop. Fourth, truncate. Fifth, rename. So these are the most common DDL commands, or 95% of the people in the world use only these particular commands on the basis of or an inside DDL. Okay, when we speak DDL, this is what is DDL is. Okay, and if I just tell you one thing here, only used for creating structure, not data. Okay, so please don't get confused with that. These commands are particularly used for creating the structure of the table, database, or modifying it. What I said, modifying it and deleting the structure. Everywhere I have mentioned the word structure here. Please keep that in mind. Okay, not the data. But why we are saying data? Because we're creating the structure of the data, right, to store the data. That's why it's written as data definition language. So I hope you got the idea what is DDL here. Okay, what is data definition language, and let's move ahead and understand one more thing. Quick overflow, I will say. I will just write it here as database, schema, and table. Now you will be wondering, I just randomly wrote some words here, right? Or database schema table. What I'm trying to give you is a quick workflow of it. This is very important that you know about this, or you might be knowing. If you know it, it's very good. If you don't, no need to worry. So what is your like what comes in the top, right? As a parent, let's suppose make it as a grandparent, okay, or grandfather, okay, or grandmother, okay. Database, grandfather or mother, okay. If we take this analogy, then comes schema, parent. Now you will be wondering why parent. Just hold on, or let me call this as great, yeah, great grandfather or mother, okay. Then I can call this as, I'm trying to build up an analogy right now, okay, so that you understand. Now then comes the table, okay. Let it be father, mother, okay. I could have write parent also, but let's go with the flow. Then the data, son or a daughter. What do you see here? What do you see? You see a chronological order, right? If you take the reference of the family, this is a chronological order, okay. So if I just draw this, what comes first? It's database. What comes second? It's schema. What comes third? It's table. What comes fourth? It's data. So within database, we have a schema. Within schema, we have tables, not tables, and within tables we have the data, right? We'll just write here within, so that within. Okay, I hope this makes sense, right? So this is the order you should be knowing. Okay, this is the workflow you should be knowing, that within database we have the schema, and within schema we have the table, and within table we have the data. Okay, I don't think, let me draw this arrows also. I don't think that's required, but just let me do it. Okay, so these are the things, how the order flows. Okay, now if I try to give you an example, I just took an analogy, right? Let me just give you an example also. Suppose there is a company DB means database. I hope you know these things now. Then comes a public. What is it? Just assume what is it. Okay, just now we discussed about it. Then comes the employees. Then comes the rows. Okay, so this becomes the database. Okay, this becomes the schema. This becomes table. This becomes records. Okay, so this is how the workflow is. Okay, so I hope you are able to make the sense out of it. Okay, now let's move into the most important things, which is basically understanding the syntax by doing the practical things. Theory is enough. You will read a lot of theory, okay, here from the websites, from the books, everywhere. The main thing is practical. So we should just deep dive into the practical now. So we will try to start with the basic syntax first. Okay, I should not be saying it a basic syntax because nothing is basic here. Okay, let's start by creating the database. Okay, if I go back, you can see here a command is present named as create. Okay, so let's create a database. As I also said previously here, that it deals with creating databases. Okay, so let's start. Create database. What should be the database name? Okay, and before that, let me give you the syntax first. The syntax is this. Okay, so this is the syntax: create database and then the database name. Now we'll just write create a database here, create database, and please follow the structure of writing the query as I'm doing here, because this will give you a good practice of writing a good, clean, and professional codes for the company or wherever you work. company DB. Okay, the company DB has been created. I will just refresh it. Look, the company DB has been created, and within the company DB we have tables, views, store procedures, and functions, which is already given by the structure. The structure is already given by the MySQL workbench. Okay. Now, here we just show that directly we can see the database name, which database are present here in the MySQL workbench. What if you can't see and you want to look at the databases? This is the query you should be using. Show databases. So here you can see that it's showing the company DB information schema. This last schemas are given by MySQL. Okay, so don't worry about that. But yeah, this is the query to check databases present. Okay, now it's like you have the key of the car, right? You just imagine that you created a car. Okay, you saw the car, you have the key of the car. Now if you want to drive the car, you just cannot put the gear, the drive mode, and hit the gas pedal or accelerator. Okay, what you need to put the ignition key in it, right? So this query to use database, because you have the database, but how you will be knowing that you, if there are multiple databases, how you will know that you have to use a particular database, right? So there comes another query. To use database, you have to type use database name. Okay, this comes out of the syntax. In bracket I will keep let me zoom this also. Okay, I will zoom this and syntax. This makes sense, right? I think this would make sense. Syntax, everything is great. Okay, so what I will write, use company DB, and I will do this. Right now I'm using company DB. You can just look here, right? Everything is done. Now we created a database, we show all the databases. Now we are using the database. Now what? Your manager comes and says, you right, I don't want this database, please delete the database and create it from the scratch. Right? What you will do? You have to delete the database, of course, right? So the command is drop database name. Okay, database name. Okay, this turns out to be a syntax. So I will write drop database company DB. I will hit enter. Look, the database is dropped, and also here you cannot see the database. And again, if I run this particular query, use show databases, it won't be showing the company DB. Okay. If I use this use company DB, it will throw an error that unknown database, which means the database does not exist with that particular name. Okay. So this was all about the database, creating of database and all that stuff. Okay. Now let's try to understand. Database is done. Now let's try to learn about tables. Yeah, it was this much only. You don't have to worry about that there could be a lot of things. Okay, because I have divided everything in small chapters so that you can learn everything step by step. So create is done, drop is done, right? These two commands are used till now. Okay, we'll just have a new query. Okay, so this will be for create table. Okay, and if you might be wondering that if there is anything theoretical to it, no, I have kept theory very less. Unnecessary theory is not present here because it's more about learning the syntax and work around it. So let's write the syntax for creating a table. It goes like this. Okay, create table table name. Okay, why am I writing this in comments? Because if I write directly this particular thing, it will throw error. Okay, column 1 data type, column 2 data type. Okay, and so on, comma also, comma, and so on. Okay, so this is syntax. If you have seen my previous chapters, you might have you might have got the understanding, or you might have recalled that, you might be able to recall that I was doing this kind of things, right? I was creating tables, I was creating the database, I was using the database. So that time you were not sure about how those things are working and what was the syntax. Okay, but now I guess this is the particular thing you should be focusing on. Okay, now so create table, and before that, what is the missing thing here? If you can say, just remember the workflow. Look, we don't have the database present now, correct? So we have to create a database first. So what I will do, I will just run this queries again itself, create database, and I will just refresh it, and I will just try to use this database. Okay, it is being used, and let's see. And before that, here also we'll just copy this, I will paste it here, and I will just run this. So I'm using the data company database. Okay, great. Now let's begin. Create table, employees. What should be there? Employee ID. Okay, that is the column name. What should be the data types? We learned right about data types. Int. Then there should be name. Name should be of varchar of length or size 50. Then there would be a salary column with decimal data type. Now you might be able to recall, right? I discussed about these things. Why I'm using decimal here in the salary, not float, right? Then comes joining date. Here I will use date data type. Okay. Now we'll just run this. Create table employees has been done. I will refresh it. Now you can see within table I have the table employees. Sorry, yeah, table name employees. Now let's try to insert the data. Okay, syntax. Now I will now I would be giving you a spoiler here. The insert command which I'm going to use here is basically comes under data manipulation language. Okay, since the data manipulation language comes after the DDL, I won't be much more focusing on insert statement or insert command, the variations and etc. I will just try to give a simple one here. Okay, otherwise that would be a spoiler to you. Insert into table name, column name 1, column name 2, and so on. And then values, you can have the value 1, value 2, and so on. Okay, now just insert the values here. So insert into employees, column names employee ID, name, salary, joining date. Okay, values, employee ID should be 101, name let it be Harsh, salary let it be 50,000, then joining date let it be current date. Okay, let's see, let's try running this, let's see if we get any error or not. Insert into was successfully done. Okay, I will just refresh this again. Within employees we have the columns, these three, right? And you can see the data types here. Fine. Now if I just open this table, employees, you can see the data is present, correct? Current date is today's date. So this is how a table creation is done, and this is how the insertion is done in the table. This is one of the way, okay, of inserting. I'm not giving you all the spoilers that will come in the different chapter. Okay, let's move forward and let me give you much more different ways. Okay, uh, other ways, or I would just say create table with constraints. Okay, here what I will do, just join date is date, salary is given. Okay, let us salary default. Let me just type it out first. I will explain you later then. Okay, so here you can see I have written few new things, right? Primary key, not null, unique, default, and some values here. So you don't have to worry about these things. These are called constraints in SQL, and we will 100% learn about this because these are very important. What I was trying to do here is that I was trying to give you an different view, or you can say a different way, or the real way of creating tables in real worlds, or the professional ways. Because when you create table, you just don't write all the data types. Along with data types, you write the constraints also, that it has to be the primary key. This value cannot be null. This value has to be unique. This value default should be 10,000 every time. Okay. So just let me remove this S and create this table. This table got created. Okay. So uh, it just give you an, let me insert values here. Insert into employee and its name, email. Okay. So email, salary, joining date, everything is done right, and primary key name is hers. Since the name is not null, so it's present here, then email is present there, right? So just let me give an email, hers at the rate gmail.com. Okay, then there is the salary. I will just remove the salary from here. Okay, then there is a current date for this. Now let's try running. I think all of the columns are present here, 3 to 5. Yeah, look, it gave me an error because I did not give here the salary, but I have mentioned here salary. We just remove this. That's why the error was there. Okay. I'm not going in depth in insert command because this will come in the DML part. Okay. So this is one of the things you might have seen now because I have given an extra column. I didn't mention the value here, so it gave me the error. But now it won't be giving me any errors. Look, it got accepted. And if I just refresh the table here, and you can see the employee table is present, and then I will just open this table. You can see 101 hertz this, and the default value came up here, and this is present here. Okay. Now what if I try to do is insert this value again? It will throw the error. Look, 101 for key employee primary already exists, or it's a duplicate entry because we are putting here primary key. And suppose let me make it as 2. Now it should run, right? No, it won't. It will throw error again. Look, duplicate entry hers at the rate gmail.com for key employee email is already there, or it's a duplicate because it has to be unique every time. If I do hers one, now it will definitely run. Now it will definitely run. Look, it got run successfully, and we'll hit it again. Data is present here. Fine. So this was the major concept or knowledge about the creating table. Okay, and let me also copy this and paste it here and write it here, constraints. Okay, so this way you might be able to relate with that. Now I just want to give you more, or I would say, now if someone comes up to you and says that, okay, you have the table, just forget about this workbench and just somebody comes up to you and say that okay, you have the table named as employees. I want to look into the definition of the table. Definition means the structure of the table. And what do you mean by the structure of the table? This is the structure of the table, that if column employee is present there, what its data type, what are its constraints, and etc. Okay, so here for that you will be having to check the structure. We write it in bold or caps. Check the structure of the table. Okay, syntax: describe table name or describe table name. Okay, so if I just write here describe employees, look, there is a field name employee ID. Its type is this. Is it null? Yes. Key empty, default null, extra null. Okay. Name varchar, salary decimal, and joining date is this, right? So this is how you look into it. And describe employee. Okay. Now in here everything is null because if you remember I have not given any constraints to this particular table when I was creating this particular table. But in table 2 or employee table, there I have put some of the constraints. Now run this command for the employee and check. It gave me an error because I'm not creating. Okay, sorry. Look, I was hitting the wrong button. Actually, I should be hitting this if I'm in the GUI. Otherwise, Control Enter or Command Enter if you want to run a particular line. So if you can see here, employee ID, name, email, salary, joining date in employee table, right? It's their type. Is it null? No. Is name null? No. Email can be null. Salary can be null. Joining date can be null. What is the key? Key for email is unique. For employee, it's primary. Okay. And what is the default value for salary? It's 10,000. So if someone unknown person comes and want to look up into the table structure, he or she can do it this way. Okay. Now let's see more commands. Show all tables. Very easy. Show. I should first write the syntax, then show tables. Show tables. All the tables present in this particular database will be shown. Okay. If you want to check for the uh, check table creation query. If you want to check that how the table was created, what was the query written for it, how we will do it. Basically, if you want to check this particular thing, okay, syntax is show create table table name. So it becomes show create table employee. Okay, look, we got the query. Let's copy this and just paste it somewhere here. Look, this is the query. This was the query which was used, and this was the engine InnoDB, and this was the character set which was used, and this was a collate. Okay, case insensitive. CI means, if you remember. So you can do this kind of stuff, right? I will just paste it here itself. Okay, it is interesting, right? Syntax. And where I have not written it. Okay. Okay, here I have written, here I have written. Great. Now, if coming back to databases, if you want to see the current databases, show current databases. Okay. Syntax comes out to be very easy. Select database. Okay, select database. Look, currently we are using company DB, because it might be a confusion, right? That which particular DB are you using? Okay, I have created this table and I have not written this particular company DB, use company DB command here, because I'm in a kind of a system where I cannot write this, but I want to check, right? So I will just be using this particular query. Okay, in MySQL. So everything which I have written writing here, all the queries are similar to all the other platforms, 70 to 80%. Okay, there could be few of the changes as we have already discussed in previous chapters. So what you could do now is that, since you have learned some of the basic syntax and queries, right? What you can do is that, let me write it for you. Just for practice, okay? Practice. You should always practice after the video. Create your own database, okay? And use all the commands. When I say use all the commands, which all of the commands which I have used, okay? And which I have basically which I have used or which I have taught you. If there are other commands, okay, there could be other commands, right? You can Google it and use that. Okay, you're free to do that. Create 2 3 tables, add constraints. I know I have not taught you anything about constraints, but if you want to Google it and if you want to do it, you might do it. Okay, you just put it in optional. Then try new things. Okay, this is very important, because okay, you will follow all the commands which I have given to you, right? And you will create a tables, you will insert data, you will even use the constraints which I have used. But there is something inside you that you will be thinking like, what if I do this? What if I write it this way, right? What happens if I do this, mix this query with that particular query? What will happen? So that is much more important to me. So that is why try new things. I've given 3 stars here. Okay. So this is all about create database and tables, and I hope you understood the topic. So guys, let's move to the next topic. Moving on to the next topic, which is alter tables, adding and modifying columns. So from here, you can get an idea that within DDL, we are going to understand what is alter tables and how it works, how we add and modify the columns accordingly, right? So let's start understanding this particular topic. This is one of the most important real world DDL topics, because structure almost always changes later. Okay, so let me just write it down here. So let it be a point as note that this is one of the most important real world DDL topics. Okay, because structure of the table or DB almost always changes later. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now coming back, so let's try to understand alter table. What is it? Okay, so it is it is used to modify an existing table structure. Okay, basically modifying the already existing table, right? So that's the simplest thing I can say. So what can you do with the alter table? Okay, so we understand that, okay, that we can do or we can modify the existing table. So what if what's like what you can do with alter command? Okay, so let me put down some points here. We can add new columns. Secondly, we can modify columns data types, columns or column data types. Okay, change column constraints. Constraints, if you remember, it's like check, default values, primary key, foreign key. These are the constraints. Okay. And also what we can do, we can drop columns, which we will study in the next chapter. Okay. Now, on the basis of theory, this is all you need to know because it is a single command in DDL, data definition language. Okay. And for what purpose it is used, I just mentioned it here, right? And what it basically does, I have given the idea here. So what should we do is that we should try and go and check for the syntaxes. Okay. So coming back to MySQL workbench, I will just zoom it. If you remember from our previous chapter that I created two tables here, employee and employees, right? So we will try to work on this only. Okay. So let's first go with the syntax. So what is the syntax? Alter table. Okay. Table name, of course. Add column name, then data type. Okay. So this is the format. And also I should mention one more thing. This is for add column syntax. Okay. This is for the adding the column in the existing table syntax. Fine. So let's take the example like alter table employees. And before that, I have to use the database, right? Use company DB database. Okay. Now we are using company DB database, which was necessary. Now, because if you don't run this command and directly try to alter the table, it will throw the error that which employees table you are asking about from which database. Okay. So this makes that clear. Now, if I open this employees columns, here employee ID, name, salary, joining date. Fine. Now, since we're adding a column, so in employees, what I will do, add what should be the column name, age. Okay, age of the employee. Data type will be integer. Please look at the syntax. What I have done, exactly the same, right? Alter table is there, then table name is there. Add is the syntax, column name, and then the data type. It is integer. Okay. Now what I will do, we'll just run this. After that, I will refresh this. You can see that age has been assigned here or added here, the column with the type int. Okay. Now this was the one way of adding one column. Now what if we have to add multiple columns? Adding one column syntax. Okay. And here only adding multiple column syntax. Makes sense now, right? So you can see the syntax all together. It will be easier for you. Copy this and paste it here. Alter table, table name. Now add. Since we are adding multiple columns, what we will do? Everything will be same. We'll just put this column name along with the data type inside a bracket. And to make it much more readable, so let it be like column one name. Okay. Copy, comma, paste. That's it. So if you will keep on going this way only, right? Okay. Again, what we will do? Again, comma, and again we will keep on going this way. Fine. So if I do it the same here, multiple columns, how it will be? Alter table. Table name is employees. Add. I want to add, let's say phone. Okay. And let it be varchar of size 15, comma. I want address column of varchar of size 100. Okay. That's it. And I will give a semicolon here for a good practice. And I will run this. Look, it has been added. So if I refresh this again, I can see phone number with varchar 15 and address with varchar 100 is added. Now, we did two ways: add one column syntax, add multiple column syntax. Now, There is another syntax for add column with constraints. Okay, look, we have not went depth in constraints part, right? We know the theory, right? But we haven't practiced the syntax. So that's a separate video or separate uh, chapter or topic, whatever you could say. But since this comes under this particular thing, I will just give you the view of how it is written. We can learn more in depth in the particular videos. Okay, so it's like before modifying the constraints or adding the constraint, you should know how you can alter the table, create the table, right? Then only we'll be adding those things, right? That's why that comes after alter and create and everything. Fine. So I will write here uh, add columns with constraints. Okay, constraints. And I forgot to give you the syntax here. So let's add the syntax. Syntax goes same way. The first line is the same. Alter table table name. Fine. Then it's add. We have to add what? We have to add department data type. Then the constraints. Okay, this is the format. So if I write it in here, it will be like alter table employees add department column of varchar 50, and it should be not null, and default value should be present there. Okay, and suppose default value should be general in case. Fine. So what I will do, we'll just run this column and let's see what happens. I will refresh this. You see department has been added with varchar. Okay, and the default value remains general for it. So I hope till now you understood how the add column in three different ways functions, right? So we'll just add another query here. Okay, here we will try to understand the second one. Okay, we know how to add the columns in an already existing table. Now, what if we have to modify some columns? Okay, modifying columns. Let it be singular column, and here we're gonna see how we can change the data type or the size. Okay, let's start the syntax also. Alter table, of course, then the table name will be there. Now what could be the command for modifying the column? Of course, the modify command, because if you remember in my previous chapters I said that SQL is a English to talk to the database, right? So this makes it easier to understand and learn syntax also. Look, modify, then the column name. Fine. And if there is a new data type, we write the data type here. Fine. Now, before running, here in employees table, okay, you can see that there are multiple columns present and their data types, right? Please focus on the name column here, which has the varchar as 50. Okay, we will try to modify this particular column now. So let's follow the syntax, which says that right, we first write alter, then table, then we write the table name, which is employees, and we write a modify command. The column name is name. Data type size will be changed here from 50 to 100. Okay, and I will run it. And what was the shortcut to run this particular thing? Control plus enter or command plus enter in Mac. Fine. And if you don't want to use a shortcut, you can just click here, select here, and then click this particular thing to execute the command under the keyboard cursor. Okay, that means only this particular command. So we can see that the alter table has been executed here successfully, and I will just refresh this, and you can see that name is now 100 varchar. Correct. Now, what if we want to change multiple columns? So syntax for the MySQL, okay, modifying multiple columns. Fine. Syntax will be alter table name, of course, modify column name, then data type, new data type, comma, modify column name to, let it be 1, new data type. If this is the last one, you can give the semicolon here. Otherwise, you can give comma again and keep on going. And at the end, you can give semicolon. Okay. So let me copy this now. Okay. So that was a syntax. Now for multiple column, let's take the example here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to modify, suppose salary, let it be hmm, decimal. Since it was 10 comma 2 previously, I will make it 12 comma 2 this time, comma, and again modify phone. Since it was 15 before, you can see in the left bottom side data types. I will make it 20 this time, and I will give semicolon. Okay. Look, all the table employees modify salary decimal was successfully done, and please keep your eye here. I'll refresh this. You can see that salary decimal is 12 comma 2 now, phone is 20. Okay. So this is how we modify the multiple columns in MySQL. Now let's move ahead and try to learn about. Let me clear this. Clear. Three. It will be change column. Change column. Okay. What does that mean? It means that renaming the column. Okay. Plus modifying it. Fine. Syntax will be alter table, table name, change. Okay. Since we are changing something, change command. Okay. Old column name to new column name. Okay. Then the data type. If we have observed, I have not written a new data type. I have just written data type, right? Because we're changing the name of the column, not the data type of the column. We're not modifying the uh, complete column structure or data type, right? Rather, we are just changing the name of the column here. So let's take the syntax alter table. I will change the name column which was present. I will change it to full name. Okay. Alter table. Table name was employees. Okay. And change name to full name. Okay. And data type seems to be 100 itself because it was 100 previously. Look. Okay. Then the semicolon and control plus enter to run it again. So it was affected correctly, and I will refresh this now. You can see that it's converted to full name now. Fine. Now what happens if I try to change the data type also? Let's try doing that. Okay. What will happen if we change the data type also? Okay. So since it's full name now I have to change the name also, right? Otherwise the syntax will be wrong. So we'll just copy this, paste it here. I will okay. Since it is full name, let it be full name underscore 1. Okay. And let's change the data type to decimal 10 comma 2. Let's see what happens. Look, it threw an error, incorrect decimal value at row 1. Okay. So that means you cannot change the data type. Okay. So what if we try to change the size of the data type? Okay. That means that I'm not changing the varchar. I'm just changing its size to 50, suppose, and it should be full name. Okay. And I will change it to full name 2 underscore 2. Okay. Now let's see, does it work or not? Look, it changed. It got changed, right? Let me refresh. Look, it got changed. So from here we can have the understanding is that we can modify or change the data type size
Okay, we cannot change the data type itself. Okay, so we got to know this from here, because if we have to change the data type, we can use the modify command, right? Why we will be using change command? So that's the difference here. So since it was an important one, and what I will do, I will just rename this again. So since it's full name too, I will copy this and paste it here, and I will run this. And again, what I will do, since I have to change it to full name, uh, okay, so I have to keep it consistent, right? So let me do one thing. So now it's we'll make it name. I will run again. Then again, I will make it name, and we'll make it full name. I have to make it consistent. That's why I'm doing this thing again. So okay, so it's full name. Fine, great. So I hope you got this doubt cleared also. Now let's try to understand with the constraints. Okay, so I will just give the heading as again, let's say that adding constraints. So till now, since we have not reached the constraint topic till now or chapter, but you might have got some idea, right? Why we are using constraints. Okay, adding constraints later. Okay, so let's start with the first one. It's add not null, means not null constraint that that particular column cannot be null. Fine, simple as that. So alter table employees modify age data type. It should be not null, not null. Okay, so here you can see age column is present, right? And let's check what is the constraint for the age column. So for that we have this particular syntax, right? Describe the table. So you can see that employee, not employee, employees again. So you can see that here age integer null is true. Look, yes, that means that it can be null, right? So what I'm trying to do is that I don't want it to be null. Okay, so that's why I'm putting it as not null. So for that, let me also give the syntax here. Syntax alter table name. Okay, modify column name, new data type or order data type. Okay, data type or data type. Let's let it be data type, because here we're adding the constraints later, right? That's why we are not modifying the data type here. Data type and then the constraints. New constraints, but it should be new data type here, because either you could keep the older one or you can just modify the new one, right? So I will just write it as new or the just data type. Fine, makes sense. Great. So I will just run this now. Okay, it gave an error here. Let's see why. Alter table. So we got this error. Why? Because if you can see here, the age uh, column is null, and I was going to explain you about this, because look, whenever you're giving or modifying a column to make it a non-null or not null constraint, that particular column cannot have empty or null values present in it. It has to be have some values in it present. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I will insert some value here. Insert into employees. Okay, then values 102, like then Bansal. Okay, then salary, let it be something. Then date of joining, let it be current. Then age, it be 20. Okay, so I think I have to put more values. It phone number, let it be that. Okay, and phone, right? So what was the data type for phone? Let me just check once. Employees columns, phone 20, right? So I gave the age here, and phone. Let me give some number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, then address, let it be xyz, xyz, fine. Then departments, since it's a default value, so it won't be an issue, but it will throw an error, I guess. Let's see. And it has to be control C dot. You don't have to worry about this, what I'm trying to do. If you don't know what is this, this means that I'm accessing the employees table directly from the company DB by going this way. Okay, let me see if it runs successfully. Okay, column count does not match. Of course, it won't be matching because employee ID, full name, then the salary, then the current date, then the age, phone number, address, department. I have to add one department here. Let it be software. Okay, now it's not showing any error. Okay, so it was successfully done. Fine. Now we'll run this. You can see that it's present here, but I have to delete this particular row. Okay, so I have deleted that particular row, and if you are wondering how I deleted that particular row, we will learn about that in upcoming chapters. So now we can see that we have this present here. Okay, so we'll go back here again and we'll try to modify this thing. Look, it got affected. Now again to check, I will run describe employees table. Look, now the age says null. No, means it cannot be a null particular column. Okay, great. So we understood this. Now let's look for the default constraint. Okay, adding a default constraint. Default syntax is same. We'll just copy this, paste it here, and since I will be modifying the salary in this case, salary and decimal 10 comma 2. I remember it to be 12 comma 2, right? Here I guess. Look, fine. So what I'm doing here, I'm putting it 10 comma 2. Okay, so again the new data type, and default should be 20,000. Okay, let's see. Okay, it worked. Again I will run this particular command, describe employees, so you can see that it got modified. Fine, great, close it. So now let's look for unique. Okay, third, it's add unique. So here a syntax is bit different. So syntax, okay, so let me tell you how it's different. Let me first write the query. Alter table name, which is employees, then add, we're using add command here, add unique, and then email. Okay, so here you might be wondering that it's bit a different way of writing, right? So if we go back to the add column section, which was this, right? What we were doing, we were doing add age then integer, right? Add, so we are adding only, right? But the way of adding or unique is a bit different. Here we are using modify than the structure and everything, right? And since it has to just to be unique, right, so we have to write it this way. So this is a syntax, so I cannot make it, cannot stretch it, right? So this is what it is. So you have to remember this particular few of the things. So it's throwing an error. Why? It says that email does not exist. Okay, let me check. Okay, yeah, we don't have the email here, right? So what I will do, I will go back here. Okay, and email, right? So what I will do, Vaka 20 email. Okay, look, I added the email column here. Fine, I will undo it because okay, we'll come back here again and I will run this command again. Look, You saw it, right? How I added the column here since it was not present, and then I made it unique. Okay, so this is how it works. And again, I will run this particular query to check whether it is unique or not. So email, right? Key is unique and null, yes, fine. Now there is another last one. So I'm just trying to give you a few of the examples here so that you can get the idea that there are two ways of doing the things by adding the constraints to the existing columns. Add primary key. Okay. So it is like alter table employees, add primary key to employee ID. Fine. And I will run this. It's done, right? We'll run again, describe employees to look that it is a primary key now. Fine. So this was all about the uh, adding constraints later to the columns, and I gave you a few of the different examples of how they are done. Okay, so what I will just create another pattern here. Syntax, another syntax, I will write it as another syntax. Okay, and it is like alter table, table name, add constraint name, column name, right? This is how it is. When we are not changing the data type, you can see that way also. Since look here, we are not changing the data type, right? So this is how it is done. So don't worry about the constraints because we are going to learn about this. So, but just I wanted to give you the syntax of how it is done. So just follow that. Now, since you are done with the syntaxes, let's come back. I have some notes here. Okay, important rules. Okay, and with the red, I will write it here. Very practical. Fine. So these are the important points you should be knowing. We'll start with rule 1. You cannot modify data types, and these are the things you should be knowing, right? Either you do mistakes and you come to know about this, or you just know it from beforehand so that you don't make those mistakes. Okay, so what happens because of this is that you cannot modify data type randomly. That means that existing data must be compatible, right? For example, you cannot just do varchar was present, right? So you just cannot convert that to int. It will fail or may fail, right? But what you could do is that if there was int data type, you can make it as big int, right? Good. So this is what you can do. I hope you're getting the idea here what I'm trying to explain. Like if there is a varchar, you cannot convert it to character if you're not sure about the compatibility, right? If it is a big int, you cannot convert it to int, and this particular column contains the size of the big int values also, right? It will fail. So that's what I'm trying to explain here. Now let's go for the rule 2. What rule 2 says that adding not null requires no null data already present. Now you can recall from the examples when I was trying to add or modify here this one, it threw the error that it's not possible because the age column is already null. So for that, what I did, I entered the data here, right? And then I was able to modify this. So this is what this point is about. Okay. Rule 3. Primary key can be only one. Okay. So this is a simple thing. Primary key will always be 1. And since this is a constraints of primary key default not null, please don't worry about them. Just learn about them right now, and we will focus more on when we come to that particular topic. I know I am telling that thing again and again because you might forget while studying that what is this thing, right? So I have to keep on reminding you that particular thing. The rule 4 says that large tables alter is slow in that particular scenarios, basically in real world. Okay, real world issue. So after learning all of these things, what could be the key takeaways from here? Okay, so first thing could be alter. Second command which we learned was add. Third command which we learned was modify. Fourth command which we learned was change. Fifth command or fifth thing which was constraints can be added later, right? And also in alter command, it what it does is modifies structure, correct? What does add do? It adds a new column. What does modify command does? It's change the data type. What does change do? It helps in rename plus modify, correct? So this is all about alter tables, adding and modifying columns, and I hope you understood the topic.
So guys, let's move to the next topic.
Moving on to the next topic, which is drop versus truncate commands. So in this chapter, we are going to understand what a particular drop command does and what a particular truncate command does, because both of them comes within DDL, data definition language, and they have some kind of a similar application on those queries. But let's see what the difference is. Okay. So first, let's start with the drop command here. Drop columns and tables. Okay, so let this be the heading, and let's try to understand now that what a particular drop command does. Okay, so drop is used to completely remove database objects. Okay, what that means is that means table, then column, then database. Okay, so these three things or these three things only, like that means table, it deletes the table, it deletes the column, it deletes the database. So it basically deletes everything including the structure plus the data. Okay, so if I have to write here one more thing, that drop equals structure plus data. Okay, structure plus data both deleted permanently, permanently. Okay, so this is the very important thing you should try to understand here, that drop command not only deletes the data within the table or within the database or within the column. What it does is that it deletes the data also, and it deletes the table itself, the complete structure of the table, not even the table name or any cache memory, nothing. Now, everything is deleted and nothing is left. Same with the column and same with the database. Okay, so there are something you should be knowing about. I would say it as important uh, important warnings, you could say. Okay, important warnings. What is does it means that there is no undo once you do it. Okay, there is no rollback even possible. Okay, no rollback possible, and the data is permanently deleted. Okay. So in real world, if you don't have this particular knowledge and you're working on some real world scenarios, okay, so let me write it here. Real world mistake equals to a huge loss. Okay. So please, you should be having understanding of this particular things, that what is a drop command actually does, right? So you cannot do control Z or control Z to get back what you have deleted. Once it's deleted, it's gone, right? It's like once you miss the train, you have missed the train, right? You cannot do anything by running back of it or behind it, right? So to catch the train. So it's the same way here. Okay. So this was all about the important theories you should be knowing about drop command here. Like this is very important. You should be knowing about this. So let's get back to the learning of syntax and implementation. So we are back into our MySQL workbench here. Okay. So let's try with the commands. So syntax. Okay. Drop table. Then the table name. That's it. That's how to delete a table. Okay. Very easy. So I don't want to hamper this company DB in the tables within it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that, let's suppose first foremost command is that use database, which is company DB, right? We now know this, right? That we have to write this command before running anything. Then select. Let me drop the employee table. Okay, this employee table. So first let me check here. Let's start from employee. Okay. So we have some 2 rows of data currently here. Okay. Now let's use the command. Okay. Drop command. So we're gonna do like drop table employee. Okay, it's an employee table, right? Not employees. Okay. Look, the table is gone here, right? If even if I do Control Z, nothing is going to happen, right? The command moved away rather, right? So that's not possible here. Now there is a safer version to it, like safer version. Okay, let it be just syntax itself. It basically says that, suppose now you can see that we don't have this table now, right? So if I just do drop again, if I just run this query again, what happens? It says that unknown table company DB, right? Sorry, company DB dot employee. So what, suppose you run this command and you don't know whether the table exists or it does not exist. So what you will do? For that, what we have, drop table if exists. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 words are particularly the commands which you have to know, and then the table name, right? So this makes the work easier, that if the table exists, please then only delete it. Otherwise, don't do the trouble of doing anything, right? So what if I just come here and write down this exists and employee. Now we know that employee does not exist, right? Let's see what it shows. It gives a warning rather than throwing an error, which is much more efficient and much more professional, you might say it, right? That way, right? It's saying that unknown table is present, and it's a warning. It's not an error directly, right? So drop safer version. I hope you get this. So this is all about dropping the table here. Okay. Now let's look about dropping the columns. Okay. Yes, we can drop the columns also, as I mentioned earlier in the heading. Okay. So let's see syntax for the dropping the columns, and before that I have also added here a students table, so that I can show you that particular deletion commands, deletion of the columns basically here. Okay. So the syntax goes like syntax. Okay, syntax for single column. Okay, when it's a single column, then what I'm going to do is that alter table, then there will be the table name present here, and drop column name. Fine, makes sense. Now if it is syntax for multiple columns, okay, then how you gonna do it? We'll just copy this and paste it here. this becomes column 1, and we'll give a comma here and copy, paste, make it 2, and sorry, and it will go on. Okay, this way it goes for the multiple columns. Now let's look at the practical. Okay, now before going that, let me show you the table which I created. Select star from students. Okay, you can see that we have these three datas here and three rows here and four columns present here. Okay, now let me do one thing. Alter table students. Okay, drop column. Let's delete the age column. Okay, it ran successfully. Fine. And if I just open this, you can see that within the columns we have the age here. Let me refresh it. Wait. Okay, now the age is not present, right? Great. Now if I want to delete multiple columns, okay, so single column, then let's go with the multiple columns. Okay, copy, paste. Okay, it's the same, right? So for this I will take name and again drop column. Let's take course. Okay, I will just stop it here. Okay, so it's successfully done. I will refresh this. You can see now the only student ID is present here. Okay, select star from students. Look, the data is also present here, but only this particular column is here. Okay, so I hope this makes the doubt clear for you now, and you are also able to understand the syntax. Now, after knowing about dropping the columns, dropping the tables, what else is left? We are left with database, right? Dropping database, and please, this is very crucial thing here. Okay, you cannot just drop database anywhere, everywhere. Okay, so let's go with the syntax here first. Syntax, drop database name. Very easy. Okay, let's, and before dropping this company DB database, I will create a dummy database or the another database so that it does not hamper this company DB which we are following along. Okay, dropping. Okay, so let's see where it got created. Close this now. Okay, so we have the dropping here, and before running the, now there are two options, right? So suppose if you just write here drop database, okay, then dropping database name, right? It dropped the database, right? It's good practice, but so let me just write here correct. Okay, but better is first you try to be in a database which you are trying to delete. Okay, because it will make you much more sure and confirm that okay, we are within that database which you are going to delete, right? So you can just do what, use dropping. Okay, we are using the dropping database now. The color is also changed, so you're in a safer place now, right? You're in a safer place, you know in which database you are. The next step becomes drop database if exists. Okay, then the name of the database which is dropping. Okay, look, it's much more safer. I know this also works, this is definitely correct, but this is better. Okay, so we just write here syntax. It comes in better or safer, whichever you can take it as. Okay, place it here and database name. Fine, and you can just run show tables command if you're dropping the tables, right? If you drop the tables, you can just, I just wanted to let you know, you can just row. I have told you about these queries, right? So you can just run show tables and get to know whether that, sorry, it's throwing error. Okay, use, you can see the error, right? Error says that no database selected, right? So I'm going to select the database again and
Hopefully this query runs. Show tables. Look, we have the two tables within the database, right? So if you delete some table, right, like employee we have deleted, right? So you can confirm that way. Okay. Now let's come back. So this was all about the syntax. Okay. So now I want you to know about some real world mistakes, right? So which is very important for you people to know. So let me start with that now. So it will be real world mistakes. Okay, this is very important. And I will bring my section here. This will be easier to use now. So first mistake, we can say that mistake. First mistakes comes out to be drop table name. Okay, on production DB. Okay, so never do this in a production database. Please never do that. That's a very big mistake. You might get fired from a job. Then comes the second one. Second mistake, I would say alter table name, drop column name. Okay. Now what happened here is that you wrote the alter command. Okay, you're dropping a column. Fine, but the catch is dropping wrong column. Okay. Now you might be asking that these mistakes are very uh, generic. It might happen with anyone, right? When you work in real companies, you are not given the production DB directly into your hand, even and mostly when you are when you are a fresher, right? So what they do is that they basically give you the QA DB, quality assurance DB, or development DB, where the data you can add on your way and delete on your basis, right? It does not affect the production DB, because even if you work on production DB, some of the commands are set that you cannot, that some of the permissions are given by the admin that this particular persons can only delete or modify the tables, and even if that particular person deletes the column or table, it gets notified to the admin, or the admin has to approve. Like some of those particular kind of settings are done, right? So these things are already taken care by the company, but you should be knowing about this kind of mistakes, right? This is very important. No. Then comes the third mistake. It is drop database name. Okay, so it's basically dropping DB instead of a table. Look, again, the same thing. You cannot just drop the database in a real world scenarios, but even if you are working on your own projects, right, or in a college project where you don't know about this kind of things and you have not set those notifications or settings, then you might face this kind of issues, right? So you should be knowing about all of these kind of scenarios. Okay, so these are the three common mistakes people usually do when they're not aware. Now come and let's understand about key takeaways. Okay, what you learn, or what are the commands you learn. Basically, I would say that will be a correct way. Okay, first is the drop. You learned about drop, right? Then you learn about drop table, right? Then you learn about drop column. Then you learn about drop database. Okay, I will add DB. Okay, and then you learn about no undo. There is no undo. Okay, cannot undo the stuff whenever you want. So these are the some few of the key takeaways for the drop command. Okay, so I hope this you understood about the drop commands. Now let's move on to understand truncate. Okay, so let's understand what is truncate command. Okay, what is it? Why everything looks similar here? Why? Because let me tell you why. Truncate. Okay, what it does is used to delete all rows, mind it, rows from a table quickly. Okay, So this is all about truncate. That's it. It only deletes rows, or you can say data, records, okay, but keeps the table structure intact. Okay. So what do you learn from here? You finally got the idea that truncate only deletes the data, rows of data, records, whatever is present within the table. Okay. It does not delete the structure of the table. Please keep that in mind. Keeps the structure intact. Okay. Now let's get back to our MySQL and try to understand this. So let me create a table since we are within the company DB currently now. Okay. So I'm going to first create a table here. Create table. Let me do one thing. Since within table we have the students, right? Let me do one thing. Drop students. Will it drop? No, right? Because syntax is wrong. Drop table students. Will it drop now? Yes, it will. So you can see it got dropped. So here you can see that I have created the students table again so that I can help you understand the truncate command properly. Okay, now here you can see that we have the data in the students table, right? So what I'm going to do is that very simple. First, let me write a syntax, right? Syntax truncate table name. Fine, that's it. Now what I will do, we'll copy the syntax, paste it here, and table name is students. Fine. And before that, we can see that we have the data, right? Let me write it again for your confirmation. Select star from students. Okay. Look, we have the data, correct? I will run the truncate command now. Fine. Again, I will run this select statement. Look, we have the column. We have the table present with us, right? And if I just give a drop down here and look, we have their data types, and there we can see that let me, rather than showing it here, describe students. Okay, you know the syntax describe, right? Describe students. This will give the structure of the students table, right? Look, we have the data type and the keys intact, only the data has been removed. Fine. So this is what truncate does. That's it. That's it. Okay, and we'll keep this as it is. Now I want to let you know about few of the things, or like one of the point of truncate, which is auto increment reset. Okay, auto increment reset. So I will make another SQL part here. Okay, so I will make the heading as auto, because looking doing these things practically makes much more sense rather than going through the theory again and again, right? If you do the implementation first and then heard about the theory, it will be much more clearer to you, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a table here. Just hold on. Okay, so this is the query. I'm going to run this complete query. Fine, I'll click on this particular thing and it will run everything. And now if I just refresh here, you can see the test table is created. Okay, now I said about auto increment reset. This is the topic, right? So what it does that, look here, id data type is integer, and this is the primary key, which is the constraint. Okay, and please don't worry about this. Look, auto increment is generally used when we have the id and we want it to increment every time whenever data is recorded in the table. Okay, we don't want to go and look for what was the last id. Okay, it was 24, now it will be 25, so I will write 25. No, I don't want that. It will get automatically incremented. So that is how this auto increment functions helps in. Okay, this is what is auto increment. You don't have to worry about that. Now this is a simple thing, and we have created a table. Now what I want to make you understand is that when you do truncate, right, the data gets removed. Now some of the people have the fear about that. Okay, now let me do one thing. Select star from test.
Look, here we have the ID 1 and 2, right? So some of the people have the doubt and fear that if we use the truncate command and when we add the new rows to it, it will start with ID 3, right? Even if it is an auto increment, because it is an auto increment, that is why, right? So let me just break that myth here. Like truncate and then table test. Okay, done. Okay, sorry. Okay, look, I have the, it's empty now. I will just insert now. Insert into test name values. Suppose C. Okay, before we had A and B, and again I will run this. Look, the ID is 1. So ID will restart from 1 again. Fine. So we have to understand this, and please don't get confused here. Okay. What I will do, we'll just put a note here in the notes also that in case of auto increment and we use truncate to delete rows, ID, let's let it be ID. Okay. ID will restart from 1 again. Okay. I hope this helps now. So this was all about the syntaxes and everything. And let's go ahead and understand about some of the limitations of the truncate. Truncate limitations. Fine. So the limitations of truncate now. First is no where clause. Fine. There is no where clause. So what you do, if what if, so when you do like truncate table name, all rows are deleted. So this is one of the limitations you could say. It cannot be rolled back like most of the time, right? Most of the time you cannot roll back it. So in most DBs, rollback is not possible. Acts like auto commit. Auto commit, okay? Fine. Then third one is foreign key restriction. If table is referenced, reference means if table A has a foreign key in table B, it won't allow it to truncate. Error. Fine. So these were some of the limitations I knew about, and it's most of the common and useful ones. So I hope you understood these things. Now let's go with the, okay, let me give some common mistakes here. They're very simple. Common mistakes you should be knowing. Okay. First is using truncate thinking it can filter data. I don't know, some people do that, but should not be doing it. It's one of the biggest mistake you do. Then second one is using truncate in production without backup. So never do that. Third mistake comes up to be ignoring auto increment, which I just explained you about. Reset. Okay, you should be knowing about that. So there are no takeaways for truncate here because just we know about truncate here. That's it. Okay, and let's go ahead and now I will just try to give you a structure difference between the truncate and drop command, which is very important for your interview purpose, and everyone asks you about this. So one thing could be you understood both the logics which I have given you. That's more than enough. Plus this table which I will give you. Go through the table. That's it. Okay, I will just bring the table here. So this is the complete table of drop versus truncate, which can go through and try to understand like what is really the difference between them.
Okay, and whatever you have understood through the video is much more than enough to cover this particular topic. So this is all about drop versus truncate commands, and I hope you understood the topic. So guys, let's move to the next topic. Moving on to the next topic, which is renaming tables and columns. So from the heading only itself, you can understand that in this particular chapter, we are going to understand how we can rename the tables and the columns without changing the content of that particular column or the particular table. Okay. So let's try to understand this particular thing now. So before that, let's try to have note down some points here that when we rename tables or the columns, first thing is that no data loss happens. Fine. Then only name changes. That's it. Okay. So this is the important thing you should be knowing that some might have the myth that if you change the name of the column or the row, the data also get removed or gets updated or whatever, right? So that does not happen. Okay, so this is all about the rename theory. So let's get back to our implementation phase and let's try to understand how it works. Let's start with the syntax here. So first we will start with the renaming of the tables. Okay, so syntax alter table old table name rename to new table name. Fine. So this is what it is for the syntax. Now let's try to rename the. You can see there, right? Let me first use company DB. First, let me come in this particular thing. Okay, now we are using this company DB. I will clear this out. Now I will just try to rename the test table. Look, we have three tables, right? Employees, students, and test within this company DB, right? So what I am going to do, I'm going to rename this test one. Okay. So what data actually we have in it? ID and name, right? So I will just rename it to name table. Okay. Alter table test rename to uh, suppose student name. Let it be. Okay. Let me write it again. Student name. Fine. Now we'll refresh it. Look, student name. This got updated. Fine. Now this query worked, right? But this is a general one. And now for MySQL, there is another. Like this also works. Syntax MySQL focus, right? This could be we can say it in that manner. Okay, what I will do. Uh, MySQL focus. I will give the heading this way and rename table. Okay, wait. Let me. Okay, I will just write directly first. Uh, I will rename the student. Will rename this table to staff. Suppose. Okay. Look, it worked, and it is a sort of syntax, right? It's a sort of syntax. Look, it got renamed, right? So either you can use that particular syntax, and if you are using MySQL, you can use this syntax. Okay, new table name, and this will be old table name, right? Makes sense now. Great. So this was all about renaming the table. Now let's focus on how we can rename the columns. Fine. Syntax alter table name. This is one of the method. Okay. Rename column old name to new name. Fine. So this is a modern SQL, you can say, way of renaming a column. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this command here, alter table staff itself. Okay. Rename. There is a column ID, right? column ID to employee ID. Let it be, right? Let's see. It got renamed. Now if I just do select staff from staff, I can see that it has been renamed to employee ID now from ID. Now there is another syntax, and if you can remember, when we were learning, when we were in the chapter 2, right, where we were learning about the alter command first time, there where we in that particular video, I was trying to use another way, right? Syntax 2, I would say it will be MySQL focus. I could say MySQL focus, but you can use both, man. Okay, no need to worry about that. It will be alter table name, and we alter table here, then change old name, new name, data type. Now here, thing is, you have to place the data type every time. Okay, the new data type or the older data type, you have to specify it again and again, right? So I will write here one point: have to specify the data type every time. Okay, we'll use this now. And since previously I renamed it to employee ID, okay. So what I will do now, I will rename it to something else. Employee ID, right? We'll rename to staff ID. Okay. And before doing that, let me check what was the structure of the table. So structure was, it was int, right? So from int I will make it string. Okay, let's see if it throws any error or not. And that's it. Okay. Sorry, not string. Character of 2. It works successfully. Fine. I will run this. You can see it's staff ID, and if I describe the table again, you can see that it's character of size 2, no null, primary key. Fine. So these were the two methods which you can use to rename the columns of the table. Now coming back to renaming the tables. Okay, and if you have to rename, wait, let me write here, common way. Okay, if you have to rename multiple tables you have to rename, then what you're going to do? Nothing. Just copy this, paste it here. Okay, and enter, and copy this and paste again, and this way it will go, right? That's it. Nothing much more to think about here. What I will do, I will just change the staff column name, staff to staffs. I will do just putting as at the end, and since there is students, right, so what I will do, student, I will make it student from students. Okay, look, staffs, and look, it became from students to student. Fine. So I will place it here. Syntax multiple tables. Fine. And new name 2 and new name 1, old name 1 and old name 2. Fine. Syntax are pretty easy, right? Now this was all about the renaming of the columns and the names. And if you might be thinking that how we can rename multiple columns, that let's try that also. Okay, let it be change, paste here again and close it. I'm making this character and making this again integer here. Okay, since it is a change command, I have to place the data type again and again here. Okay, so and since it was older name was name, I will make it full name this time. Make it varchar with size 100 this time. Okay, it throws an error that staff does not exist. Why? Because the new name is staffs. Again, it throws an error. It says that there is no employee ID in here. Sorry, because I will cut this. Older was this, and the newer becomes employee ID. Fine. So this were some of the mistakes of mine. Let me rename again. Okay, now it successfully got rename and select staff from staffs this time. You could see that full name and employee ID is there. So this way you can do the multiple changes also. I'll copy this. Paste it here. Syntax 3 multiple columns using change. Okay. Data type. Just hold on. I will just copy this. Paste. Paste. Okay. And so on. Old name to 1, new name to 1. Okay. Multiple columns using change. Now what if you want to to rename multiple columns using this particular thing, right? Let me clear this out. Change using rename. Let's try. Okay, let's try this. Let me refresh it again, and since it was, let's take student this time. Copy and paste here. Student table, and I'm going to rename student student ID to just an ID, and rename column age to student age. Let's see what happens. It worked, right? Refresh. ID and student age, right? This also works a similar way, right? So I hope you got this using multiple columns, right? Multiple columns using rename. Let me write it here. Syntax for multiple columns using rename, and again this copy and paste, right? 2 1 1 and 2. Fine, this is how it works. Fine. So now let's get back to our theory. This was all about the syntax. It was pretty easy and straightforward. Now let's get into some important points to learn about. Okay, so important points. Fine, let's study about them. First one is case sensitivity. Some DBs treat names as case sensitive. Even MySQL also does the same. If you just change the UTI of it, like if you remember from the previous videos or previous chapters where I explained about how we can change the case sensitivity one. Yes. So in that scenario, it might throw some errors, and you should be knowing about that. And dependencies. This is very, very important. Dependencies break. Like if it is used in, suppose views is a table which is temporarily created in RAM. Okay, we'll study about that also. Stored procedures. Then comes the queries, right? Now what I'm trying to speak up here is that suppose if you have table 1 and you have a table 2 and both are connected, and there is a query in views written, or somewhere the query is written, to get the transformation of the data or get the fetch data by joining two tables or doing the union of multiple tables. What else? If I change the name, right, and if I don't change the name or the query in that in the SQL query or in that another table, if it have some relationship between them, it will throw the error that man, this column does not exist. So this is one of the issues. Then MySQL change, right? There is another one like MySQL change, which is rename column. This issue, right? Because if you are using change, you have to rename plus the data type has to be needed or it has to be added. Okay. If you are doing rename, uh, just rename the column cleaner way, right? So this was some of the important points you should be knowing about, and let's take some important points also or key takeaways also with this particular thing here. Okay, key takeaways. First will be we can rename multiple tables. First thing. Second, we can we have two ways to rename a column. Okay, change and rename. Third, we can rename multiple columns using any of the commands. Fine. There is no data loss. We have to be careful with the dependencies as I explained, right? Dependencies. So these were some of the few of the key takeaways which I think you should be knowing about. So this is all about renaming tables and columns, and I hope you understood the topic. So let's move ahead to the next topic. Thanks for watching this module, and check out the next video in the core playlist. Explore other related modules there as well. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.